Hey everybody, this is Zach Kunkel, and I'm going to be your host for this afternoon's webinar titled Leveraging the Operations Health Index for Your District. We over here are the only ones who are going to be able to talk. All phone lines are muted. If you do have any questions, feel free to insert them in the bottom left corner where there is a chat feature. If you are having any technical difficulties, feel free to also use the chat feature, and I will help you figure them out. Again, the dial-in information is in the chat feature as well. If you're listening on, you've done correctly. If you are only looking at it, the number is, again, in the bottom left corner. So today we are going to run through and introduce our speakers here shortly. Then Ash, our local applications engineer, he's going to run through the Operations Health Index and specifically the maintenance indices. Then we're going to have a live demonstration of our work and asset solution. And then at the end, we are going to have a Q&A session for both of our speakers. And so, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our speakers for this afternoon. First, we have Ash Hale. He is an applications engineer over here at Dude Solutions, working with our education clients. In his role, he strives to maintain an intimacy with our solutions, the areas that impact education operations, and the people and our clients who use them. Ash is in constant contact with education professionals, discussing their work, successes, pains, and the tools that can help them daily improve their experiences. And then next we have Bobby Antonucci. She is a client of the Dude. She is a facility systems analyst over at Horry County Schools in South Carolina. In her time at Horry County, she has designed the metrics and measurements used by the facilities department now, is responsible for creating annual reports and presentations for the Board of Education, and she coordinates the annual budget inputs for facilities. Bobby is responsible for the administration, implementation, training, and best practices for the Dude platforms that are utilized over at the district. Last year, she obtained her commercial drone pilot license and now videos all the schools and capital projects. That just sounds fun. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Bobby to give us a rundown of Horry County Schools.
Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day at the beach. Horry County Schools is in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Our school district is the entire county, so it is a large school district. We have over 43,000 students. We have 60 schools and facilities, and it comes up to a little over 8 million square feet of area that we maintain. Currently, we have about 63 maintenance technicians that serve these schools. They are broken up into districts so that they concentrate on a few schools apiece, which allows them to get to know the schools pretty well and know what the common issues are and help us be able to make those better. We can go to the next slide. Oh, there it is. Just as an idea, we do over 20,000 work orders a year. The number you see there is only slightly inflated because our bus repair group uses the work order system also, and they don't specifically report into facilities. Facilities includes all the maintenance, the capital improvements, the custodians, and inventory and vehicle maintenance to support our group. Our road over the last few years for preventive maintenance, as you notice, our ratio has increased, and that's part of what we'll be talking about in a few minutes. It is not something that you can just jump in and do 100% all at once. You've got to rev up, or at least that's the way I've always found it. And a better guide to that is here where we see the month to month. quantities. You can see that at certain points we made significant jumps in what we were doing by adding additional crafts. So that's the story behind Horry County Schools. So we'll turn it over to Ash. Is it going to Ash or is it going to you?
All right, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're going to discuss now the 2018 Operations Health Index. Now, to give you a little background, in 2017, Dude Solutions unveiled its Operations Health Index report to the education industry, and we were overwhelmed by the interest it received. In our 2017 survey, we conducted sentiment survey and received 200 responses from a representative sample of job titles, region, type, size of school included, and we also used our own database of, at the time, 6,000 educational clients. Now we looked at client data on work orders, preventative maintenance, IT help desk, and asset management, as well as capital planning, energy management, and facility usage. And we scored performance on a binary scale and also normalized the data and accounted for difference in student size. Now, last year our core topics that we focused on were preventative maintenance, deferred maintenance, community usage, technology, energy, and safety. Similar to 2017, we started this year by mining our database of now almost 7,000 education clients, including K-12, private, independent, 2-year colleges, 4-year universities, nationwide, technically internationally. We do have some outside of the country as well. And we looked at data on preventative maintenance, predictive maintenance, work orders, deferred maintenance, IT help desk and asset management, capital planning, energy management, facility usage, and more this time. And we also scored performance on a binary scale and normalized the data by accounting for differences in student size. And this year we also heard from over 300 education industry members from K-12, around 49%, higher ed, around 26%, private independent 9%, and with roughly 19% choosing to remain unclassified. And these respondents came from a representative sample of job titles, institution type, region, and size of school, and 100 more than we had heard from last year. And we covered many of the same areas as we covered last year and added new ones such as reporting predictive maintenance, reporting predictive maintenance, and Internet of Things. And based on our response, we can tell without a doubt your peers are using data to make big changes in their institutions. For example, Western Washington University collected data around their energy program, and that now saves them 200 to 300 hours of work per year. Georgia College and State University cut their work order completion time from days and weeks down to just 24 hours. And the Moreno Valley Unified School District secured $675,000 in state funding thanks to accurate work order data. In other words, need we say more? Now, the contribution to the data was supplied by two dudes. The first one, Melissa, who has a background in applied mathematics and a Master's of Science in Analytics. She's been a data scientist for over 4 years and a data analyst at Dude Solutions since 2015. Now, Jed has 15 years of experience with School Dude, helping our clients understand their operational data. He's also been a pioneer of our key performance indicators, or you'll hear me say KPIs at points throughout this conversation, and he's also an operations expert. All right, let's dive into the composite score and the supporting indices. Now, the score for the 2018 Education Operations Health Index is a 57.2 on a scale of 1 to 100, with 1 being the most pessimistic outlook on the state of education operations and 100 being the most optimistic outlook and indicator of success in operations. The sentiment for this year is not overly optimistic, yet it's not negative either. If anything, it is a slight increase from our OHI report score of 55.6 in 2017. Now, the supporting indices topical breakdown, we'll break this down further later in our presentation, but here are the different indices that we went into on our composite score. Every green box is a positive sentiment. Every yellow or golden box is neutral, and every orange box is a negative sentiment. Now, let's see. Keeping in mind that if you want to get really specific, one thing we noticed was that the positive outlooks are leaning towards managing external factors, community usage, for example. And we took this as operations professionals are feeling better about managing how external factors impact their facilities. The negative indices, things that brought the score down, were in areas that should be under operational professionals' control, deferred maintenance, for example, or things they should be leveraging, Internet of Things, but are not. Getting arms around those two areas you control and should be leveraging, would move the needle for operations professionals in a huge way. But the sentiment suggests there's a disconnect in the priorities of budgetary decision makers and operations professionals. Now, today we're only going to be focusing on these four indices. And for the best, as you can see, the outlook was either neutral or negative for each of these four. That'll be preventative maintenance, deferred maintenance, predictive maintenance, and Internet of Things. And we'll start off with preventative maintenance, which had a neutral outlook. 46.6% of you are doing the same amount of preventative maintenance as you did last year. 43.2% are doing more, and 10.2% are doing less. And as your facilities gain age and wear with each passing year, it becomes more problematic to think of preventative maintenance as a nice to have instead of a must. When we remember that our facilities are a home away from home for our students, given how much time they spend under our roofs, we see that through our frontline responsibility, though our frontline responsibility is teaching, the backside is providing a safe, comfortable, well-functioning environment for that to happen. And we can't do that when buildings and equipment are pushed to the limits until classrooms are down, systems fail, or we have to perform disruptive emergency work during class hours. Having a proper preventative maintenance program in place also makes sense financially. We all know how it goes, pay a little now or a lot later. In fact, we've polled a sample of our preventative maintenance all-stars who reported that having a strong preventative maintenance program in place allows them a 50 to 65% reduction in the state of emergency work and a 28.6 to 39.3% reduction in the average cost of per work order. Now, to give you a visual representation of that, I'm going to provide this chart here. As you can see from the chart, when we're working in a reactive maintenance model, the model we're describing is undesirable. We're working with a model with a very low amount of preventative work orders being taken on or completed. That's represented by the broken line towards the bottom of the screen at that point. And as a result, an organization is taking on a high amount of emergency work orders. Now, as we've seen schools who have data captured and reportable information, as they increase that preventative maintenance workflow, you'll notice that it doesn't immediately drop off. There is a period where some balance is maintained, where folks get in the groove of the preventative maintenance flow. But then you'll notice from a data standpoint, we have a dramatic drop after that grace period where reactive or emergency work orders drop dramatically and start to hover just above where the frequency of preventative was occurring in the previous model. And so the proactive maintenance model gives facilities a chance to get a handle on the equipment itself so that they're dealing with less reactive work, so that they're disrupting class less, so that they are disrupting day-to-day school operations less. Now, preventative maintenance has an effect on operations efficiency. As Curtis Orndorff, manager of building maintenance at Frederick County Public Schools, said, as a result of preventative maintenance, our equipment has far exceeded the industry standard life expectancy, and we receive less work order requests because our equipment is well maintained. Year over year, the ratio of preventative to non-preventative maintenance work orders has remained the same, 19% for both 2017 and 2018. However, the ratio still has room for improvement as it's well below the recommended benchmark of 30%. Overall, we only saw a roughly 9% drop-off in responders doing more preventative maintenance work than the year before, possibly indicating that the ratio of reactive maintenance to preventative may be getting to a point in which it's leveling off and becoming stable, at least for now. This sentiment is further backed by the fact that our data showed a small drop-off in those adding additional resources specifically dedicated to preventative maintenance as well. The growing backlog of deferred maintenance could also be a factor at play here. While many are doing their best to grow their ratio of preventative to reactive maintenance, they can only get so far ahead as they try to combat the growing backlog of deferred work. Now, Bobby, in Horry County, as it stands right now, how have you guys built your preventative maintenance program?
Thank you. We have done this over a course of several years. Some of our buildings, are from the 50s. Some are from the 70s. Some are from the 2000s. So coming in and just wholesale doing, preventive maintenance across the board right from the beginning wasn't going to work so well. I mean, some of these buildings had almost been ignored for a while. So we started by, first of all, requiring weekly PMs of the vehicles that the people drive. Get them in the habit of doing it. They have to do it every week. They get used to the tools. They get used to what they're doing. And then before school started that first year, we added two of our most critical items. One was generators, because we are in a hurricane-prone area, and the other was elevators, because we did have a problem with elevators failing with people in them. Because they never seem to fail when nobody's around, right? This is the way it goes. So we added those two, and we did monthly inspections of our generators and our elevators, including run tests. Then we added a little bit more. Then we added our contract services. We had to wait to renegotiate the contracts, like pest control, lawn service, things like that. We've seen a great improvement as a result of that, because the pest control people get a work order every month telling them, make sure you go and you serve this school and you do a spray. And now that we know that spray is happening every month, we get a lot less pest control calls. We did the same thing with our landscapers. Then we started adding our major equipment, like chillers and cooling towers. We've added our asbestos inspections that we have to do every year. So we keep increasing it with the pieces. And now I have the maintenance techs coming and asking me to set up PMs for them for things that they should be doing regularly, like backflow valve inspections. The plumbers all came to me and invited me to a meeting and said, can we set these up? And it's like, absolutely. We are in the lucky place of being a growing school district, so we have just built 5 new schools. Those schools, brand new, we are setting up full PM programs on those 5 new schools. So they will start out right from the beginning having the inspections on things annually or semi-annually or quarterly, depending on the type of equipment. So that's how we have grown it from a little bit to a little bit more to a little bit more, making sure we're hitting the areas that are of most importance to us and that are the most critical to operating schools in a given week.
All right. Well, as a result of the plan, you guys have been stair-stepping into place. Are you seeing the assets lasting longer? Is money being saved? How are you seeing it affect the district?
We are seeing some good effect. For the ones where we put it for the contracts, we have much better control of our contracts. So we were able to, with 60 buildings, we had more than one landscape company mowing the lawns. We had 4, I think. And one of them wasn't doing it. Well, we had the evidence because they were getting emails every week of which schools they needed to do, what they were doing and what they were not doing. So we were able to end that contract and give their work to somebody who was actually doing it, which is huge.
Sure.
The number of urgent pest control calls that we get because of bugs or other type animals in the building have significantly reduced. And now we're seeing less work on generators. They run when the power goes out. We don't get emergency calls on them. And the elevators are still evening themselves out to being able to do that.
All right. So as far as future plans, is there anything else you or the district is looking to do?
Yes, we are adding on, and we're doing it, again, critical being first, and then things where we will save money. So, for instance, fire alarm, we have a new contract with fire alarm, so we'll be able to do scheduled maintenance on those. We are replacing HVAC systems on certain schools who had 30-year-old HVAC, so we're setting that up. We're going to continue to do that to hopefully get to the point where a good deal of our work is done by scheduled maintenance. So you don't have those emergency calls. You're not running from one place to the next. With 43,000 students, they'll always find a way to break something. But we're hoping that will make some big differences in certain areas.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. With that, we will start analyzing deferred maintenance, which, as you'll recall, was listed with a negative outlook. Now, this year, deferred maintenance and overdue capital needs continue to be a concerning trend. And given that the average life expectancy of education facilities for both K-12 and higher education is roughly 40 years, it doesn't speak well that respondents answered that board members have neutral or middling support of capital improvements for existing buildings, with the likelihood of approval for such upgrades being a 3 on a scale to 5. The percentage of funding set aside for deferred maintenance and capital improvements does not indicate a positive trend. The recommended percentage of budget set aside for deferred maintenance and capital projects is 3% annually. Only 19% of those surveyed allocated a portion of this size, and 42.5% allocated less than 3% to none, while the number has grown from 15% in 2017 to 19% in 2018 for those who allocate the portion of this size. The number is still alarmingly low. In addition, a worrying 38.4% are unsure of how much they have set aside for overdue operations and capital needs. According to the 2016 State of Our Schools report, in the past 5 years, overdue maintenance needs have risen 18%, equaling $6,462 per student. So that the state of our schools, essentially, we're looking at a $542 billion dollar amount being carried on deferred maintenance and repairs and essentially to systematically reduce the accumulation of deferred maintenance, states and districts will have to spend an additional 1% of current replacement value per year, totaling $19 billion annually. The bottom line is that K-12 schools simply cannot afford to run buildings to failure, making reducing maintenance backlogs critical. Now, while the financial component is there for higher education institutions as well, there's also another element at stake. Students are able to choose which higher ed institute they're attending, making it vitally important to present a well-maintained campus to remain competitive, as first impressions tend to weigh heavily in the decisions of prospective students and their parents. Now, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers 2017 infrastructure report, schools received a D+ grade. This is up from their 2013 grade of a D, but still not passing by any means. 24% of public school buildings were rated as being in fair or poor condition. Now, 4 in 10 public schools currently do not have a long-term educational facilities plan in place to address operations and maintenance. And if they do, it's mostly due to the need to upgrade technologically. Facing tight budgets, school districts' ability to fund maintenance has been constricted, contributing to the accelerating deterioration of heating, cooling, and lighting systems. Now, Bobby, once again in Horry, what has your experience been with deferred maintenance? Give us a snapshot of the experience so far.
Well, we're just like every other district. Although we are a growing district and we have plenty of funding, to run our schools, et cetera, we don't have sufficient funding to take care of the aged buildings. One of the best things that we did was we installed capital forecast to have an inventory of all our schools, how long all of the building components last, when we should expect to replace them, et cetera, which gave us much more respect from the Board of Education, because we can go forth and we can run reports and say, well, this is how much we've got deferred on this school and this is how much on this one. Our bids are coming back higher than what our estimates are, and that's just a fact of life. But the fact that we can point to each school and say, well, we know the carpet in this school is 6 years old, and the carpet in this school is 8 years old, and this was the last time it was painted, and this is the last time the roof got done. Not relying on people's memory. Because before we installed that, it was all in somebody's memory of what we did. So we have just done a 5-year needs list. I'm calling it that. And we submitted it to the Board of Education several months ago. And it was $750 million worth of needs in the next 5 years. Backlog plus the next 5 years. And there's no way they have that funding. So, we won't get caught up. It's a matter of prioritizing. But it gives us a lot more skills to be able to say, well, this roof, while it's 12 years old, is in better shape than this other 12-year-old roof. It gives us that kind of ability. And the needs are going to continue to grow. And it's something that we all struggle with our boards of education, to understand that you can't ignore it. You've got to continue to maintain the buildings. Excellent.
Thank you. So we'll switch from here to preventative maintenance and Internet of Things, which respectively had a neutral and a negative outlook. Now, on the preventative maintenance side of things, the idea here is that schools keep ahead of the game by performing maintenance before a breakdown occurs. Predictive maintenance here, referring to utilizing the Internet of Things functionality to accurately predict which assets, equipment, those types of things are actually going to require maintenance. So what is the Internet of Things? It's essentially an Internet-powered web that connects devices and allows them to communicate. Is it similar to building automated systems or machine-to-machine? Conceptually, yes. Communication and interoperability gave building automated systems a key role in facilities. The rapid growth of the Internet of Things is giving a wide range of new technology choices, device connectivity, newer and more open protocols, and data sources. And now how does that help schools and universities? Well, let's go beyond HVAC into light fixtures, office equipment, plug strips, appliances, vehicles, and more, while expanding the technology options into more operational areas. And the Internet of Things enables us to gather information and even to accomplish tasks with minimal to no human intervention. Smart technology means big operational advantages in time and manpower. Plus, when leveraging predictive maintenance, equipment and other assets are predicting their own maintenance needs and issues well before they occur. Where preventative maintenance heavily relies on a flat timetable, predictive maintenance provides a dynamic look at what work actually needs to be performed and when. Now, our survey data shows that 58.5% of institutions fall in the range of being unfamiliar with what predictive maintenance is to decidedly not incorporating it into their strategy. As for utilizing Internet of Things capability in their maintenance operations, an overwhelming 85.4% of institutions are not taking this approach, though almost 20% plan to in the near future. Now, Bobby, how do you see predictive maintenance and Internet of Things helping schools moving forward?
Well, this is an area just beginning to open up to us. So we are setting up plans to do predictive maintenance and IoT on our 5 new schools. You know, schools that have 20-year-old equipment don't have equipment that's capable of talking through the Internet for you to get that information back. So it's something you have to plan for as you go forward, and as you upgrade things, as you install new schools, as you replace equipment, that's where you can start opening it up. Much of our HVAC equipment is controlled through building automation systems, and I think that's where most of us have started. And it provides us a good start, and it provides us a good view into what's going on at the schools on a regular basis. In our 5 new schools, we plan to do that a lot more. The 5 new schools are energy positive. They have solar and geothermal, and all those are connected and have Internet to be able for us to diagnose them at least from a distance. They just opened last year. We're still in the point of trying to balance the systems, etc. But it is something we want to get to. You can also do predictive maintenance somewhat from your database by analyzing, how many calls you're getting on particular rooms or particular HVAC systems and how it's behaving, and with your, if you're doing preventive maintenance, keeping track of your meter readings and whatever you can get on that piece of equipment and watching it over time. But the Internet of Things is really what's going to open that up for us to be able to be diagnosing the systems and the problems with the schools from an office, and knowing this school really has a critical situation. That school is a little bit off, but we can deal with that one second.
Gotcha.
And I think that with tight budgets that everybody has, with tight information, that's the only way we're going to be able to keep up with all the needs in the schools as we go forward.
Excellent, thank you. Well, that takes us closer to our live product demonstration. School Dude is equipped to be able to assist school districts in a variety of different areas, including work and asset management, as well as event and trip management, energy management around your utility bills and finding dollar value in savings within your utility expenses, and then technology management as well. Now we're going to focus today from a product standpoint on the work and asset management software. And so we will go ahead and jump into a live demonstration. In just a moment we will pull that live on screen. You may see a quick blip. And here we go. So we're going to run through a little bit of reactive, a little bit of preventative, and how a software solution can help you harness incoming work and be able to provide you reporting data to be able to not only see where you've been, but see where you can go, and using the power of the scope of Dude Solutions Reach, giving you also the opportunity to peek up behind the curtain at other operations to see how you stack up in comparison. Now you should see a little fella in the top left corner in the screen with a blue sweater on. Bobby, is that appearing for everyone from your screen?
Yes, I can see him.
Excellent. So we'll go ahead and move forward. So what we're looking at right now is a requester page. And we've designed our requester page from a maintenance standpoint to keep things very simple so that a faculty or staff member approaching the requester side of things can easily identify the problem that's happening from a reactive standpoint and be able to get the information accurately to the maintenance folks as needed. So our requester here is going to select the location of their issue. We're going to put a problem in the administrative building in room 123. Then they'll select their problem type. Now the requester page's problem type selection is completely customizable by the client. We have something like 290 different selectable problem types. And based on your internal culture, based on the needs of your organization, you can decide which of those options appear on the requester page. Now in our case, let's have a pest control issue today. Since that's been reduced by Horry with the regular pest control, we'll put a reactive issue for this particular school. Now let's say we found a mouse in room today. And if the requester has a picture of the mouse or a picture of evidence of the mouse or some document that they would feel would be useful to the maintenance crew, they can attach that in step 5, and then they submit their request. Now once a request is submitted in this solution, a couple of things are happening at once. Number one, the requester is routed to a list of their most recent requests, in this case the last 10 requests, with the ability to look at their own historic requests as well. They'll also be able to receive automated emails through the software if you decide administratively that that's appropriate, and the requester can be notified simply of work completion or decline, or they can be notified at varying steps along the way towards completion. It's up to the organization to decide how much interaction the email system gives the requester. Now you can also allow for the solution to set up routing rules. So depending on the size of your organization or just the general organizational needs, you can ensure that a work order request can route to the right eyes first. So in some schools that means the school secretary or school principal needs to approve an item in that individual building before it finds its way to maintenance. In other cases, everything needs to pool right to the maintenance desk first, and in other instances, some schools would prefer that specializations such as plumbing or electrical automatically assign to the appropriate technician before anybody starts administrating that so that they can take care of those appropriately. So depending on the needs of your organization, the routing rules can be set up accordingly. Now, from the administrative side of things, as work comes in, you'll be able to oversee the incoming work. You'll be able to see what's new, what is currently in an unassigned status, what is in some other sort of status. And you'll also be able to differentiate reactive work from preventative work. Now in this case, I want to go ahead and manage that mouse in the room. So clicking on the new request takes me to the most recent request with the ability to see the other new requests as well for the day. Now I can oversee the requester's entry at this point. If I want to tweak the location, if I want to set a priority, the mouse is a pretty low priority for us today, so we'll drop the priority on that. If the requester selected an inappropriate craft, we can certainly make a change there. We can even assign the work to the appropriate technician. Now based on the routing rules in this particular account, this work was automatically auto-assigned to Van Carter. But I could pick from another technician if I wanted to. I even have the ability to double check the assignments for that technician for the day to make sure I'm not overloading them with too much work. And right now, based on what I'm seeing, we're good to keep that on Van. Now, furthermore, the solution has the ability to incorporate budget, to tie in custom purposes and those sorts of things. So those are available in there. You can even set target start dates, estimated hours for completion, that sort of thing. None of that is towards the end is all required, but nice options to have as you grow into a solution like this. Now from there, it's possible to save your changes electronically, and a technician in the field does have the ability to access this work electronically either from a computer or a mobile device. Or if you're in a phase right now where you still need to rely on paper, it's possible to submit and print, which will generate a printout of the work order for you to be able to hand off to a technician. Now in this case, we're just going to go ahead and submit, keep everything electronically. And I'm going to pull up the technician view on a mobile device. Now on screen we have a iPad. The mobile application that is incorporated with this solution is compatible with iPads, iPhones, as well as Android phones and tablets. And at the moment, we're looking at Van Carter's workload, and it's currently sorted based on priority. So he can see what's assigned to him based on priority. He's also able to see some basic information up front. For example, we can see I've got a few different work items at the Dude campus. So as I am on Dude campus, I know what other work there is to do, so I don't necessarily need to run back from one building to the next, to the next, to the next. I see all these items are in a particular place. Now in this case, I happen to already be in the administrative building as Van Carter. I want to go ahead and tackle that mouse in the room so we can check that off for the day. In this case, I can see the work assignment. I can see the problem that the requester has put in, any attachments that the requester has included. I've got the ability to interact there, but I can also add my own attachments. So completed work or a picture of a receipt that needs to be included later down the line. Those are possible there. And I also have the ability to reach out to the requester from the mobile device. So if I have some follow-up questions or need to give them a verbal status update for whatever reason, I've got the ability to do that. Now, as far as logging the time as the technician, all I need to do is swipe on the work order to start the clock on it. If I have another work in progress, it's going to warn me that I have another work in progress and ask me if I want to pause that. In this case, that is absolutely what I want to do. So we're going to go ahead and start the clock on that mouse assignment. And now as I take on the work, if I discover that there's an individual piece of equipment that's involved in the work, if you are maintaining a list of equipment in the solution, then your technician in the field would have the ability to flag that piece of equipment right from the field so that you can identify how many times from a reactive standpoint that the technician is having to touch this work or touch this piece of equipment so you can keep a running work order order and transaction history on individual pieces of equipment throughout the school district. And just like with starting the work, I have the ability to stop it by a simple swipe. So that'll allow me to mark my time. In this case, it took me a little bit more than a minute. We'll say it took me an hour. I can make the correction there. I also have the ability to log my notes. So I can easily use the dictation function of the mobile device to leave notes. I don't have to poke out my notes over a keyboard. This is number one, going to make it a whole lot easier for the technicians in the field to be able to leave notes. But number two, make it more likely that you're going to get more accurate and detailed information because we're not asking them to poke this out letter by letter. We found the mouse and removed it. Everything is back to normal. And finishing that, we'll go ahead and tap the green button at the bottom. That'll mark that item. In this case, we'll move on to the next thing. Now, some schools still deal with what we like to call hallway muggings. So if a teacher or administrator sees a technician in the hallway, they assume that they're fair game, even though you know they're running from one work item to the next. So if those do occur, they still have the ability to create a new work order on the spot, whether that means you're instructing them to tackle it right then, or whether they're creating a record of it so that it can be tackled at a later time. They've got the button right there to be able to log that additional work requested. And in addition to reactive work, the technicians in the field can also be able to see the preventative items that have been assigned to them. And you can incorporate things like a task list for them so that as they go along, they can mark these individual items off, showing their completion, leaving notes as to what they encountered while they were out there or why they may not have been able to complete as needed. And again, it's also possible to incorporate attachments into the mix for them. Now, moving back onto the administrative side of things, to build those preventative schedules out, it's not going to be a massive ordeal. Of course, from a services standpoint, we can assist your organization in constructing a preventative schedule or even just getting the first steps going. But the preventative schedules themselves will be able to be manipulated and grown over time. There's room within the preventative scheduling not only for that task list we saw earlier, but breakdown of startup procedures, safety points. We can identify equipment that will be worked on or tools that need to be brought along or specific parts that should be gathered for that preventative work. That way, if we're handling a particular filter change on a particular unit, they know which unit they're working on. They know which filter to bring along with them. And that is not something that you have to build from scratch. The solution has been designed to give you a walkthrough wizard so that you can step by step quickly establish a preventative maintenance schedule around a particular realm within your organization, be that equipment, be that tasks you want technicians to take on a regular basis, maybe even a custodial schedule. And as you establish these schedules, you can also save templates that you can borrow from at a later date. Now, both the reactive and the preventative side of the solution will give you a calendar view. At the moment, we're just viewing the preventative calendar so that we can keep an eye on how the month is breaking down, whether we need to make some quick changes or whether we just want to plan for staffing. It gives us an eye on what's coming for the month. And it is also possible to create blackout dates if there's a day where you know you won't have staff on hand, or if you know there's a day coming up where students won't be in the buildings and you want to take advantage of the time to move some additional preventative items. You've got the ability to make those changes after the fact. Now, capturing the reactive data from request all the way through to completion, as well as the preventative data from scheduling all the way to completion, is going to feed into a very robust set of reporting capabilities. The solution is going to give you the ability basically to analyze your operation from a variety of different angles. We'll take, for example, a location cost report. Selecting a few quick criteria. In this case, I want to look at one particular fiscal year. And in this case, I also want to itemize by problem type. I can quickly generate a report showing me a breakdown of each of my buildings. I can see the different problem types we've taken on in those buildings. I can see how many hours we're putting into those problem types, the cost of that labor, as well as any material costs we've been tracking to the work. So that number one, I can see where my dollars are going, but number two, I can easily spot some discrepancies. For example, it looks like in this building we spent more time and money in key and lock than we did in HVAC in this particular year, which sounds like science fiction to me. So those are numbers I might want to investigate. Did we not close out our HVAC work orders? Did we have some major vandalism or a major security upgrade in a building that caused those changes? Given the fact that I have that backlog of completed work orders or non-completed work orders in the system, I can easily start mining that data out. And I can use that, in order to do that, I can use the advanced search function, which will allow me to create custom reports from a number of different factors that I might want to examine. We'll take, for example, in my case, we seem to have a requester that we hear from more than anyone else. We seem to get the majority of our requests from Dr. Fussalot. Now, I just want to take a look at the list of everything we've gotten from Dr. Fussalot, but if I wanted to, I could narrow down to a time frame, to a location, to a problem type in conjunction with that requester's name. In this case, just a simple search for that requester's name turns back a full list of every request we've ever gotten from that requester. And this can inform whatever conversation we should have next, whether it's a conversation where we identify a problem that this requester seems to have been privy to. Maybe they're the canary in the mine and they have alerted us to an issue in the building that we just haven't noticed up to this point. Or maybe the requester is the problem. Maybe we need to have a conversation about appropriate reasons to put in requests or appropriate use of the maintenance department. With this list in hand, that conversation becomes a whole lot more about facts and a whole lot less about memory and hunches and feelings. And then the crown jewel of all of that reporting comes in with the Dude Intelligence part of the solution. And Dude Intelligence is your opportunity to examine your operational data from a graphic dashboard. You're going to be able to take a look at your operation from a variety of different angles, whether that be employee workload, whether that be work orders that are still listed as in a non-completed status, whether that be highlighting problem types that you seem to take on more than others. The solution is going to publish this information for you visually so that you can easily take that and analyze it or share it as needed to be able to gain insight into the operation or to communicate whatever it is you're trying to communicate, be that to a building administrator, be that to a school board, whomever needs to see it. We'll take, for example, the employee workload dashboard we see here. From a visual standpoint, I would imagine I'm looking at an operation that's tracking some contractor work, has a few part-time folks, but has two key full-time folks who are taking on the lion's share of the work. And we can easily illustrate the type of time and effort being put in by our team, illustrating the different variety of problem types that are being taken on, the number of hours, those sorts of things. We can also focus in on just those problems themselves. We can take a look at the craft dashboard and get a quick snapshot of what we're spending our time and energy on. For example, in the Dude campus, it looks like our biggest issues tend to be electrical, HVAC, and plumbing, which sounds reasonable. Over in the DS Center, HVAC and plumbing and electrical seem to be overtaken a bit by our vehicle maintenance work. Now, if I wanted to, I could just take a look at only the crafts taken on the DS Center, and we just keep narrowing down from there. And then the solution takes your own data and pushes it against schools across the country your size based on key performance indicators, giving you the ability to analyze those key performance indicators, seeing where you stack up against those other schools. So things like time to completion, average number of work orders per technician, preventative maintenance data, efficiency information, all sorts of different charts and graphs that you can use to peek behind the curtain at the other operation. Now, the key performance indicators, as well as your own trends, your year-over-year, month-over-month performance changes, are published each month by the solution into an executive summary, which is essentially a slick, professional, branded PowerPoint presentation that's fully editable on your side. It'll take the KPI data that I scrolled through a moment ago, as well as your own trends that we didn't bother to click on this time, and publishes them for you. And you can take that data as needed, move slides around, remove slides that aren't ready to show yet, and take this before a board, before a super, before the general public, whoever it is that needs to see this data in order to be able to support the decisions you're trying to make within the district. And that is a kind of a sky level view of the capabilities of the maintenance solution. Ultimately, it's important to know that the solution itself is, number one, cloud-based, which means you have unlimited users, and we automatically provide updates to the software. You're not going to have to maintain those updates on your side. It also has the mobile capabilities, not only the ones we demonstrated, but the ability to access that data from workstations on any of your campuses. And it also maintains support. We offer professional services as needed to your organization, as well as interactive classes. And as long as you are using the solution with us, we continue to support that solution for you. We do back that solution up with professional services, and those key performance indicators are backed up by the Dude Nation, that network of clients that at this point, from an educational standpoint, is reaching 7,000. Across all of our industries is over 10,000, and that includes a best practices network as well as a variety of transactions that are incorporated.